Jonathan Burden, thank you very much for joining us. Last year it was a bit of an up and down season for you guys at Chesham. Do you want to talk me through it? How did it go for you? How did you feel?
Yeah. So I think we won most of our games at home. Um, we're very lucky we've got a very, very good pitch at Chesham, and I think we played well when it was long form cricket and high scoring games. We seemed to come out on top. Had a couple of good run chases at Chesham. Away from home, I think on slightly less good pitches, we didn't adapt well enough. Um, I can say this as a bowler, but taking over the captaincy, but and the batters will know this, but we simply didn't score enough runs throughout the year. Matt Rance came good towards the end of the year, but apart from that, there were very few times where I think we really dug in. Top order, middle order, and probably the lower order probably didn't quite do enough, which everyone's aware of. But conversely, we were like really delighted with how the bowling went. Alfie Clifford had a massive breakthrough year as a 17, 18 year old left arm quick. I think he's got a big future and did really well. And sort of all the bowlers I think chipped in at various times, and then in the field we were pretty outstanding. I think that particularly the fielding side came down to sort of the team spirit and the way the guys have gelled. We've got a really nice blend of some older, more experienced people with Rich Levy when he's played, to bring his sort of international ex-pro experience, and then sort of myself, the Rance brothers who've played a fair bit of minor counties, and then a good range of people coming through from sort of 17 up through to university age. So it was a really nice blend and definitely probably I'd say definitely my favourite year of club cricket that I've had. Just through work, I've sort of been away from club cricket sort of for 4 or 5 years ever since COVID, really. But this was the first time I've really strung together a number of games, and it was just like really a really fun team to sort of come back into. Um, so yeah, it was a sort of whistle stop of Chesham's year in 2024.
How it's interesting because we've spoken to quite a few clubs now, and they've all kind of given roughly the same answer. But how important do you think it is the team managing to gel so well in performance, both on the field but also in forming like a an environment around the club?
I think important. I mean, I don't think you necessarily have to get on to do well. Having said that, like this is people's Saturdays. And frankly, like the view that Matt Rance took last year as skipper and as he did throughout his 6 years, and I'm fully intending to take on, is that primarily while it's a good standard and we want to play hard competitive cricket and win, you sort of do that by enjoying it. Um, and so a huge emphasis that Matt put on it, and as I say, I'll continue to do is trying to create that culture, bringing through people who are not only sort of outstanding cricketers, but are good people to be around and who you want to spend your Saturday with. Because we all know that it's a long day, and if you're driving a long way from home and playing a full 120 over game, there's no point doing it if you're not enjoying the people you're around with. So yeah,
Mm.
hugely important, I think, for us.
Yeah, and you spoke briefly earlier about Matt Rance kind of coming good at the end of the season. The next highest score was, or the next amount of runs totaled was about 150 less, and it kind of goes down from there. Is there anything that kind of as a team you're going to look to do differently, maybe throughout the winter, or maybe a tactic change in the batting so that you don't have those problems next year?
I think it was rare that we were blown away by teams, and I think this is endemic to amateur cricket. Very often, I mean, even professional, but particularly non-professional batters, find ways to get themselves out, and the trick to bowling well in this format is simply to not get bored, and you'll get those opportunities. So I think everyone is aware of that, and there were certain games we came off feeling we've probably left 30 or 40 runs out there, which if we were just a little bit more disciplined, put slightly higher value on our wickets, then with the bowling attack we had, we felt like we might have been in more games.
Mm.
Having said that, we batted at some really difficult places. So Stoke Green away against a really impressively strong spin attack. Same at Slough. Just very difficult places to go and bat, and we showed in patches that we could do it. But those were tough games. I said I don't want to go too far away though from people playing their natural attacking game. So we've got people like Daniel Ward, an extremely attacking player who's got every shot in the book, and it would be a disservice to him and to his game to try and sort of take him away from that. So I think it's just making sure that we're being a little bit more selective, creating an environment where people feel they can take a bit more time though if they require.
And do you think giving them that freedom to play how they wish Do you think that will kind of help them in scoring those runs, and equally with the bowlers, giving them kind of the backing to go try your things? Do you think that's kind of helpful towards performance?
suppose it's a bit of a trade-off. There'll be times I think when from the outside you look at how an aggressive player is playing, thinking just, oh, if they get themselves a bit more opportunity, they'd do well here. But on the other hand, when it comes off and, back our batsmen to do it more often than not, it looks phenomenal. And then you're dominating games and really getting on top, and that's how you establish yourself as a real sort of league winning side.
Mm.
With bowling, I think it very much depends. So for example, with Simadeep Singh, who's a young leg spinner who gets, properly turns the ball, good flight, good bounce. Telling him to be a restricting bowler would again, it would be a sort of restriction of his natural game. Um, and so no, it's a blend, and it depends on the players. So we've got a nice squad where we've got people who can play restrictive or defensive games, and then those got a bit more expansion.
You've alluded to it. You're taking over the captaincy next year. Um, what was the reasoning behind Ronsu stepping down? Why yourself, and what is your aim kind of going forward?
So I won't speak too much for Rancy, but this was his sixth year in charge. That's a hell of a stint in club cricket when you're not just doing the match day stuff. He also manages a lot with the grounds, the kit. So it was sort of the life and soul of the club, and rightly has decided that he just wants to concentrate on playing now. Um, Everyone at Chesham is massively grateful for all the work he did. Captaining a club side is something that I've always sort of in the back of my mind thought that would be something I'd like to do in the future. Obviously, I mentioned earlier, been away from club cricket for a while, so hasn't really been an option. But when Matt announced at the end of our last game, which frankly I wasn't expecting, sort of came out of the blue, but in hindsight, it sort of makes sense why. I just thought, this is the absolute perfect time for me. Approaching 30, but with plenty of experience at a club that I started my playing career at. So joined Chesham when I was 5 and was there till I was 16, for having a bit of time at Wickham and then at Wimbledon. So sort of coming back 2 years ago, it felt really natural. I think stepping up to be the captain now feels sort of the next natural progression of that in terms of aims for next year. So I think we ended up coming fourth or fifth, but we're probably sort of 2 to 3 wins away from really challenging promotion. So I've alluded to the sort of the culture that we've created at Chesham, and that's through the first team, and particularly the feel around the second and the third and the fourth teams has been really, really fun at the club. Like it's been a genuine pleasure to be around. So inoculating that culture where people want to come and play for us. As I mentioned, we've got some really good developing young players. I think there'll be a point where naturally that confluence of experience and really exciting talent comes together, and we put together a really strong year. The ceiling for this club is getting promoted into Div One. It's just having enough nous and enough ability to put together enough wins. So I'm not putting a target on promotion, but we've certainly got the players to be able to challenge and to do that.
And do you think then that, say, for example, you put in the work, you get promoted, do you think you'd be able to compete with kind of the likes of the Henleys, the Wickhams, the Bambury's in following years?
Well, I think Crofty alluded to sort of the difference in standard, having really struggled in Div One and then being the standout team in Div Two. But 100%, there's no one who we'd put in our strongest 11 that wouldn't get into almost every one of those Div One sides. I think it would be initially a matter of believing it. Um, but I know when Chesham came up the first time into home counties too, I think the year after was probably the strongest performance they put in. So you get on a roll, I think. And there've been a couple of cases of teams coming up within a year or two winning the Prem. So I don't think the gap is enormous, but I think it might be conceptually one to bridge, and that will just be something that we'd look to cross if we're privileged enough to get there.
Yeah. What was your highlight then of last year? You say how fun it was. What was the highlight of last year?
The best moment was our win against Stoke Green at home. We got bowled out for I think 135 ish. Um, Started off strongly with the ball, then they brought it back. Looked like they put together a match-winning partnership, and then we managed to grab 2 or 3 towards the end to win by I think about 10, 15 runs in the end, and it was just a really great moment of celebration when Rance took the last wicket. Just like a real outburst of energy. We shouldn't had no right to win the game, but combination of some pretty good bowling and that attitude that I've alluded to sort of sustained us through that game. That was a lot of fun, that win.
Is there anything next year that you're really looking forward to?
I'm quite looking forward to the first moment where it sort of hits me that I'm captaining a home counties prem club. Yeah, I think that'll be a big sort of let it sink in moment. As I said, like feel really privileged to be given the opportunity to captain Chesham. So I'm really looking forward to when that moment sort of becomes reality because sort of in the depths of November, it sort of feels a bit quite a long way off, and there's
Mm.
a lot of time and a lot of stuff I need to do before we get to that stage. So I think finally getting on the field and feeling like this is my team will be really exciting.
And as we were speaking off recording, but um, becoming captain has additional responsibilities and additional stresses that kind of not just being a player has. How have you found kind of the workings of that in terms of looking to sign players, dealing with player relationships, all that kind of stuff?
Uh, we're very lucky at Chesham that the backroom staff, I'd say everywhere from chairman and John Royals and Paul Hughes DF, who do a great job of running things behind the scenes. Dave Porter, who does the grounds, all do all do a really good job. And Jason Rance is sort of using his long experience of being a coach at Bucks to help with this recruitment. So actually, so far, I'm feeling so well supported. It hasn't been too stressful, and I know that will continue throughout the summer. As I say, like the way that the whole club of Chesham is run, there's so much passion and people put so much time into it. I think me just being sort of the visible face, and that's like the 5% that goes on Saturday, shouldn't be too challenging. He says, fingers crossed. But I'm sure as the reality hits close to the summer, I'll really begin to appreciate sort of the work that Matt's done, and all the other captains who have been lucky enough to do this have gone through.
And as captain, you now have the ultimate decision in the long format. Are you batting or bowling first?
You bowl first, you get your work done, and you let the batters knock off the runs.
And how do you feel about teams typically batting out for the draw from ball one?
I hope it's rare because I think people are there to enjoy their cricket. But on the other hand, I think it presents its own challenges and it's fun in its own way because to have the patience to bat through to signal your intent to block out for a draw and then bat for 50 plus overs. It's perhaps not a skill that's as well practiced sort of in the modern game, even down at our level, and gives us an opportunity to as a captain think things through and as a bowler to try a few things. You know, gives you the option to bowl loads of bouncers in a way that might be more enjoyable for me personally. And then it also brings our attacking spinners into the game in a way that we don't often get to use them. So if teams want to, I'll take it as a huge compliment that they don't think they can chase against us. But yeah, that could be a couple of long days.
Nice. And is the focus this year on the league or is it on the cup? Is it on both? What's the focus for this year?
So we've never really made much of the National Cup, and have sort of always used the T20s as just an early season run out. Um, so I don't think that will change hugely this year. So I think winning and enjoying Saturdays in the league season, that's going to be 90% of what we focus on.
Same question we've asked everyone. Who is always the last person into the bar?
The last person in the bar, Richard Levy.
Why?
It takes
Is
a
it
long
out of,
time to get his kit. It takes a long time to get his kit together. He's like he moves at his own speed.
do you think he does it on purpose so he doesn't have to get around in?
No, no, absolutely not. No, a very generous man. He just he's moving at his own rhythm.
Okay. Who is the best looking man in the changing room? And you can't say yourself.
Jason Rance,
Okay. Who is the worst looking man in the changing room?
marketing.
Oh,
You
wow.
can't publish that.
He's not going to enjoy that one. Right, you're on a desert island. Who are you voting off, either because they just talk too much trouble or you think they're going to eat up your resources?
I think everyone in the squad immediate reaction would be Daniel Ward. We love him very much, but he speaks and he speaks and he speaks.
Okay, and you alluded to people giving it away with the bat. What's the worst excuse you've had someone say to you for why they got out?
I think people would say this, but it looks like it. Like just getting bored.
Has somebody
All think
physically
about the
said
time.
that to you?
I don't think they've said it, but you can tell from the way they played.
Okay. You form
Do you
a
know
boy band with,
Henry? Do
yeah,
you
go
know
on.
what Henry Moore had a good one where he left a ball which he knew was on middle, carried on middle, didn't swing, didn't move, and he left it. And the lack of excuse for why he left that ball that bowled in was quite amusing.
Henry Moore's an interesting one because he's left a few on middle stump when he was at Wickham as well. Maybe he's got it in his head that his first ball, he has to leave no matter what happens.
Because he opened the batting really nicely for us last year, but he's sort of in the ducket role of mold of very rarely leaving the ball. So getting bowled leaving was enjoyable.
Chesham form a boy band. Who's the lead singer and who's just there for the looks?
Andy Goddard has all the vibe of a boy band member, sort of distinguished facial hair, uh, a nice fashion sense. I think he's slot into that role nicely. Um, young Ranveer Singh he's just gone off to university and is he's clearly going through sort of discovering his social life. His Halloween costume was quite impressive, so I think he's there for looks.
You send me a picture of that, by the way, so I can put it up as well. Okay, you're at a nightclub. Who's got the best chat? Who's got the worst chat?
I've alluded to chat. I think that'll be Daniel Ward with the worst. I think Paolo's the funniest in our team. Understated. He's a smart man. He knows he's got smooth conversationalist.
And would you say he's the funniest in the club?
Oh no, the humour from the club is very much in the second team. Uh, yeah, it's a group of people who I was very lucky to sort of grow up playing with, and it's nice that everyone stayed there. But that's a funny bunch. Yeah,
Okay. Um, what three people are you taking to dinner and why?
I'm taking Richard Levy. Good bunch of anecdotes. I'm taking Matt Rance, a man I've been for dinner with many times in many parts of the world. His company I always enjoy, and I'm taking Henry Moore for his ability to kick on with the night.